Welcome to the video on conducting research. I will walk you through the major steps of research conduct, including Institutional Review Board, or IRB, human and animal subjects, sample selection and informed consent, developing the research protocol, and choosing instruments for your data collection. Let's begin with IRB approval of research on human and animal subjects. IRBs, or equivalent bodies, provide a core protection for human participants in biomedical and behavioral research. They are charged with providing an independent evaluation that proposed research is ethically acceptable, checking clinical investigators' potential biases, and evaluating compliance with regulations and laws designed to protect human subjects. The IRB reviews research protocols to determine if humans will be treated in appropriate ways. The primary concern of the IRB is the welfare of the human participants. The IRB will review protocols to ensure that participants will provide informed consent for participation in the study and that the procedures will not harm the participants. This committee has particularly difficult decisions to make when a procedure involves the potential for harm. The three levels of IRB review. Exempt review. Research can be approved as exempt if it is no more than minimal risk and fits one of the exempt review categories as defined by federal regulations. Expedited review. Research can be approved as expedited if it is no more than minimal risk and fits in one of the federally designated expedited review categories. Full board review. Research that does not qualify for expedited or exempt review, meaning that it presents more than minimal risks to subjects, will receive review at a fully convened IRB committee meeting. Recruiting human subjects. Participant recruitment can be a challenge in many research studies involving human subjects. Recruitment involves a number of activities, including identifying eligible participants, adequately explaining the study to the potential participants, recruiting an adequate sample based on study goals and design, obtaining informed consent and maintaining ethical standards, and retaining participants until study completion. Obtaining animal subjects. Procedures involving animals should be designed and performed considering the relevance to human or animal health, the advancement of knowledge, or the good of society. The use of animals is also justified to provide scientific, veterinary, and medical training that is not possible through other methods. Investigators should consider the appropriateness of the experimental procedures, the species of animals used, and number of animals required. Approval of procedures on animal subjects should be obtained from an Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, or IACUC. Next, we'll explore sample selection and informed consent. Determining power. Power is the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when the alternative hypothesis is true. It measures the ability of a test to reject the null hypothesis when it should be rejected. The minimum accepted level is considered to be 80%, which means there is an 8 in 10 chance of detecting a difference of the specified effect size. Setting up your procedure. The procedure for an experiment is important because it allows your experiment to run smoothly and details the sequence in which every step is to take place. With human participants, the procedure determines how participants are to be greeted and how researchers should behave toward participants. For example, scheduling and consenting participants are also part of the overall procedure. The informed consent process is central to the ethical conduct of research. Goals of the informed consent process include giving the participant information about the research, making sure the participant has time to consider all options, answering all of the participants' questions before the decision is made, making sure that all information is understood by the participant, obtaining the participant's signed informed consent form to participate, and continuing to inform the participant throughout the research study. Finally, let's touch on the research protocol and instrumentation when conducting research. Developing the protocol. The protocol demonstrates the guidelines for conducting research. It illustrates what will take place in the study by explaining each essential part of it and how it is carried out. It also describes the eligibility of the participants, the length of the study, the variables and control processes, and data management and collection methods. The aims of the protocol are as follows: to raise the question to be researched and clarify its importance, to collect existing knowledge and discuss the efforts of other researchers who have worked on the related questions, or the literature review, to formulate a hypothesis and objectives, to clarify ethical considerations, to suggest the methodology required for solving the question and achieving the objectives, and to discuss the requirements and limitations in achieving the objectives. Choosing the right instruments. Depending on the hypothesis and research questions being studied, researchers need to carefully consider the types of instruments they will use to measure outcomes. Sometimes, the best tool is one that already exists and has been validated by prior research, instead of developing a new tool to use for a research project. The literature review process can help in this regard because it can point the researcher in the direction of instruments and tools that have been thoroughly used in previous research and that may be appropriate for their own research study. Collecting data. Data collection methods are important because how the information collected is used and what explanations it can generate are determined by the methodology and analytical approach applied by the researcher. The data collection method will be informed by the type of research being conducted. For example, quantitative versus qualitative approaches, and experimental versus non-experimental research methods. A few key data collection methods to consider as examples are surveys or questionnaires, interviews, focus groups, and other observations. Here are the sources referenced in creating this presentation, which were retrieved from the National Library of Medicine's bibliographic database called PubMed and Google Scholar. I hope you have found this video to be informative. Thank you for watching.